The loss of a sibling changes everything. It rewrites memories, reshapes silence, and leaves behind moments that suddenly feel heavier than before. For Jack Schlossberg, that grief became visible to the world when he honored his sister, Tatiana Schlossberg, by sharing a childhood photo that captured not just their bond, but a lifetime of shared history now marked by absence. Tatiana Schlossberg, the daughter of Caroline Kennedy and Edwin Schlossberg and the granddaughter of President John F. Kennedy, passed away on December 30, 2025. She was 35 years old. Her death followed a courageous and deeply personal battle with acute myeloid leukemia. News of her passing spread quickly, touching not only the Kennedy family but also readers, writers, environmental advocates, and countless people who had followed her work and her words. In the days after her death, as public tributes and private mourning unfolded side by side, Jack Schlossberg shared a post on Instagram that immediately resonated with people around the world. It was not elaborate. It did not explain how he was feeling. It did not attempt to summarize a life or define a loss. Instead, it showed a single childhood photo of Jack and Tatiana together, captured in a moment long before illness, responsibility, or public identity entered their lives. The image showed two siblings standing close, smiling naturally without awareness of cameras or history. It was not polished or staged. It looked like the kind of photograph found tucked inside an old family album, taken at a time when the future felt open and uncomplicated. In choosing that image, Jack appeared to be reaching back to a place untouched by grief, a time when Tatiana was not known to the world but simply known to him. For many people, childhood photographs represent beginnings. In moments of loss, they also become proof of how long someone has been loved. By sharing a photo from their early years, Jack seemed to remind the world that before Tatiana was recognized as a writer, a Kennedy, or a public voice, she was his sister. That bond existed long before titles or expectations, and it remained even after goodbye. Alongside the photograph, Jack shared a series of quotes. Some were drawn from the words of influential historical figures, including John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, and Robert Frost. Others came directly from Tatiana's own writing, including excerpts from her book Inconspicuous Consumption. These selections were not random. They reflected the ideas that shaped Tatiana's life and work, including responsibility, humility, and the belief that individual choices matter. By including Tatiana's own words, Jack allowed her voice to remain present. Even in death, she was speaking for herself. Her writing had always focused on awareness rather than blame, encouraging people to understand the unseen consequences of everyday actions. In the context of grief, those words carried even greater meaning, framing her life as one lived with intention and care. Jack's caption contained no text. Instead, he used a single cherry blossom emoji. Often associated with fleeting beauty and the impermanence of life, the symbol quietly acknowledged loss without defining it. It offered space for reflection rather than explanation, allowing viewers to bring their own understanding to the moment. Tatiana Schlossberg was known for forging her own path despite belonging to one of America's most recognizable families. As an environmental journalist and author, she dedicated her work to examining how modern lifestyles impact the planet. Her writing was thoughtful, researched, and grounded in empathy. Rather than presenting herself as an authority above others, she wrote as a participant in the same systems she questioned. Her book Inconspicuous Consumption explored the hidden environmental costs of daily life, from clothing and food to technology and travel. Tatiana believed that awareness was the first step toward meaningful change. She urged readers to reflect, not to feel guilt, but to feel responsibility. Those who worked with her often described her as measured, curious, and deeply sincere. Beyond her professional work, Tatiana was a devoted wife and mother. She was married to George Morin, and together they had 2 young children. Family was central to her life, and those close to her frequently spoke about how deeply she valued motherhood. Even as she balanced public writing and private challenges, her role as a parent remained at the heart of who she was. In late 2025, Tatiana published a powerful essay in The New Yorker in which she publicly revealed her terminal leukemia diagnosis. Writing with clarity and honesty, she described the emotional complexity of facing mortality while still being fully engaged in life. She reflected on the difficulty of reconciling illness with the responsibilities of being a mother, a partner, and a daughter. The essay resonated deeply with readers and was widely praised for its courage and grace. The Kennedy family has long lived under public attention, yet moments of loss have often been handled with dignity and restraint. Following Tatiana's death, a private funeral service was held in New York City at St. Ignatius of Loyola Church. The location carried deep historical significance, as it was also where Jacqueline Kennedy's funeral took place decades earlier. The service was attended by close family members, friends, and a small circle of notable figures. Details were intentionally kept private, reflecting the family's desire to grieve away from public scrutiny. It was a reminder that even families known to the world seek quiet spaces to mourn those they love. In the days that followed, additional tributes emerged. The JFK Library Foundation honored Tatiana by sharing images and quotes that echoed the values she lived by. These gestures emphasized her commitment to thoughtful service, environmental awareness, and meaningful conversation. Additional photographs of Tatiana were also shared publicly, including one taken just 3 months before her death. In that image, she appeared smiling alongside her husband and children. The moment was warm and ordinary, filled with connection and presence. For many, the photo offered comfort, showing that even amid illness, love and joy remained part of her life. These images stood in contrast to the sadness surrounding her passing. They reinforced the idea that Tatiana's story was not defined solely by disease or loss, but by relationships, purpose, and the quiet strength with which she lived. Jack Schlossberg, the youngest grandson of President John F. Kennedy, has often navigated the balance between public life and personal privacy. In honoring his sister, he did not seek attention. He did not expand on his feelings or offer commentary. He allowed a single image and carefully chosen words to speak on his behalf. The response to his tribute was immediate and heartfelt. Messages of condolence and support filled the comments, yet the post itself remained unchanged. It stood as it was first shared, unedited and unexplained. In many ways, the tribute reflected a profound understanding of grief. It does not need to be performed, it does not require elaboration. Sometimes it exists best in silence. Tatiana Schlossberg's legacy extends beyond her family name. It lives in her writing, in the conversations she inspired, and in the awareness she encouraged. It also lives in the people she loved and the values she passed on to her children. Jack's tribute was not simply a farewell, it was an act of preservation. By sharing a childhood photo, he preserved a version of Tatiana untouched by illness or public narrative. By sharing her words, he preserved her voice. In moments like these, grief and memory become inseparable. What remains is not only sorrow, but a clearer understanding of what mattered most. There was no press release, no formal announcement, and no attempt to define loss for others, just a photo, a few words, and a symbol. In that simplicity, Jack Schlossberg conveyed something deeply universal. Love does not end with loss. It changes shape, but it remains. For those who followed Tatiana's life and work, the tribute served as a reminder of her humanity. For those who knew her personally, it reflected bonds that cannot be broken by time or death. In honoring his sister this way, Jack offered the world a quiet glimpse into remembrance. Not loud, not polished, but sincere. And sometimes sincerity speaks louder than anything else.